IEC come on up and give a report. Tom, can you kick us off?
Sure.
Thank you.
I got it. Okay.
Sure, I don't need coffee. I'm okay. I was here earlier. Good morning, everybody. Hope you're all doing well. We are, I got a few things I'll report to you about our advocacy activities, both on children as well as adults. And our advocacy activities on children has really been taking front and center. As you know, there's been lots of newspaper articles about all students throughout the system being late to school, being dropped off a couple hours late, being picked up and not being brought home. It's been pretty much a horror show. And City Councilman Mark Traeger, who is the chair of the Education Committee, had hearings a couple of days ago. Chris Krieger from ISD did speak to the joint hearing. Chancellor Ronson was at the hearing, and it was clear that they know that it is a mess, and the whole system needs to be addressed. You may have seen the paper that the Chancellor removed the head of pupil transportation. So this is all great, but as far as we are concerned, especially for our special education schools, we always seem to be this little last forgotten piece. They don't see the level of heartache and frustration and the overcrowding buses. We've had a couple of our schools call us, sending pictures of children with injuries. One a cut on their eyelid, another one with bruises on their head, and the patrons say, well, they must have did it to themselves. And this has been absolutely exasperating for us, for the schools. We've expressed it we submitted the testimony, we have sent in the pictures, so we're getting some attention towards it. So we're going to wait and see what happens with that. Of course, the bigger issue in education is our teachers. We are real concerned. We had one of our providers in the Bronx just called and said, I don't have a certified teacher for these 7 children. She calls her regional associate and said, what am I going to do? What do you want me to do? Do you want to take these 7 children back? Because I cannot, by law, have an uncertified teacher in a classroom in front of these children. And they said, no, don't do that, don't do that. You know, they're not ready to take the kids back. And yet, she lost a teacher a couple of weeks ago with another one of those, I'm going to go work at the city, I have to report Monday morning, I have to resign today. And this is, we've been sounding this alarm now for quite some time. Over the summer, we had ISC sent letters to Mary Elliott, Commissioner of the State Education Department, Chancellor Bronza, as well as Betty Rose on the Board of Regents, and all of the Regents members about the crisis that we are having in our schools in terms of our teacher turnover and our vacancies. And we continue to look at this in that kind of way, where we're going to go to the system and say, we have a huge problem here, you need to address this. But we're at a point where we're not even sure whether that's going to satisfy us. I may have, myself or Chris may have been here since our town hall rally back in June. We are discussing the possibility of legal action. Of course, it's not going to be based on the providers, it's going to be based on the children and their families. So we are seeing enough of the aggrieved children and families in our special education schools, and we need to. So we're talking, there's a lot of things going on behind the scenes. We're continuing to try and get meetings. We're going to bring it to the legislature, who's been slow to act on it. A couple of us went to an event. We saw Assembly Speaker Carl Hastie and spoke to him and kind of put the bug in there to say we need to talk education coming soon. So we're going to see what happens with that. So lots there, a lot of frustration, but we certainly are not going to give up on it, and the health of our schools demands it, and our children demand it. So that's on that side. On the adult side, we will once again, December 31st this year will be the next installment of increase in the minimum wage. So what about our staff when minimum wage goes up? Where are they at? And so our Be Fair to Direct Care campaign will be ongoing again this year. We have already looking to set some rallies statewide. We've had a couple upstate. We're going to schedule one on Long Island, hopefully before Election Day. And then we're going to start making the rounds over the next few months. We're not sure what the governor's budget is going to hold for us come next year. There may be a cost of living adjustment. We're hearing rumors that there might be, which would be terrific. If it includes sufficient money for number one, our staff, and number two, the infrastructure of our provider agencies. We've had no increase since 2010, no meaningful increase, 0.2%, a couple of years ago. But we still is not going to sustain the system as we wish to move towards managed care, right? And that really is well, we want to make sure that the system is healthy and vibrant enough to be able to sustain this change. So we are going in that direction in terms of working with our legislators and getting Be Fair to Direct Care in their minds. It's still a little early, but we need to make these plans now, and we need to start making connections there. So that's what we are trying to do. You guys have the legislative breakfast all set, right? For next year?
Next year.
When is it, March?
March 1st, I think. I don't know the day off the top of my
I think it might be the 1st because the 8th is a couple of others, so, okay. All right, so our legislative breakfasts are being set, and as I said, as the governor, since the gubernatorial election, the governor will not have to produce his budget until the last week of January, the 4th Tuesday, I believe. So we'll be watching that to see what that contains and what it doesn't contain. Apparently, it's been a good year on Wall Street. So maybe the tax revenues will be positive for us this year, because when Wall Street does well, then we get more money into New York State's treasury, but there's other factors as well that take away from it, as we well know. So in terms of managed care, as you know, we made this huge transition July 1 to the CCOs. We took about 376 Medicaid service coordination agencies around the state and rolled it into seven CCOs. It has been on the ground a hit and miss proposition. It's been a little sloppy and a little bit chaotic. As a system moving from where we were to where we're going, believe it or not, that was done fairly well. Nearly 98% of the people have signed on and are in the new system. Of course, and I say that because in terms of perspective, I've been in a couple of conferences in Baltimore and Washington on managed care around the states, and many states are just jealous of what we have here in New York. When you have close to well over $8 billion budget, with a combined federal match for services, the amount per person still is the highest in the nation. So they see us and say, you guys are doing well enough, and you're actually having the not-for-profit providers help lead the transition towards the managed care organization. So that's the positive side. On the not-so-positive side is there are still folks who don't know they have a service coordinator, who the service coordinator is. They were working with my agency who went with this CCO, but now they tell me they're working with that CCO. Do I really want to come over there? Should I stay over here? So we know that this is not easy. But when you're taking 100,000 people in the system and you're converting it in a matter of months, there are going to be things that fall through the cracks. So, it is in our best interest to work with OPW to make sure that this gets done correctly, because we're going to manage care whether we like it or not. It has been determined in other sectors, in the primary health sector, that this does work. It does provide better integration of services and helps to contain costs. And the contain cost part is what we want to do, is at least have a system where we're not going to be under constant attack as to why do we have to spend all this money on Medicaid. Because as you've heard in Washington, the leader of the Senate, Mitch McConnell, said, well, we have a deficit. We just gave a big tax cut, but now we got a deficit, we got to fund that. We have too many entitlement programs like Medicare and Medicaid, and we're going to have to look to see whether or not we can get those costs under control. And of course, where do the grand majority of our funds come from for services? So, one of the nice things that I did hear when I was in Washington recently was the fact that last year's push to repeal the Affordable Care Act and really start trimming down on the amount of money that Medicaid and services that Medicaid pays for. Many of our elected officials down there, many congressmen from around the country, in New York State, we're in pretty good shape. We have a good congressional delegation, even on the both sides of the aisle, because they understand what Medicaid does, because all of us have been giving out that message and telling them what Medicaid does, that it supports my son, or it supports this wonderful program. And they heard that message. So they're starting to understand that Medicaid is not a welfare program, but it is a program that helps enable people to live in communities. It helps support them in cheaper options than institutions. It employs people as well. And we've made that message clear, and many of them have started to get that. So that's a positive thing out of all of that. But it's still going to be, it's still an uphill battle. And there are still people who, regardless of what it pays for, still have other political ends in mind. So we have to keep an eye out on that. So anyway, in terms of going back to New York State managed care, the CCO transition, again, big picture, we've been able to do that. It did reasonably well. The small picture, the individual circumstances is going to take a little while to get really better straightened out and get folks in the proper place in terms of who their care manager is, when the life plan meeting will happen, and when eventually we'll move to integrate the healthcare services over. So I guess the issue is try and hang in there as best you can, and obviously be in touch with OPWDD. Yesterday at IAC, we had Mary Grace Giuliano, who is the Director of Metro Region 4. She come out here yet to see you?
Yeah, she was here last month.
She was here last month. And I don't know what your impression was, but in my conversations with her, she came from the private provider community. She worked in finance as well, outside of our industry. She has very definitive ideas in terms of getting projects done and holding people accountable in a certain time frame so that we can get this project underway. And she's coming to a system that may not have had that kind of focus and expectation and accountability. So we have hope for Mary Grace, is what we're saying. We have hope for her. She wants to get this right. I was lucky enough to be on the interview process for her well over a year ago, and she impressed me because she had the sense that, look, if OPWDD, if the state office and the private sector and the self-advocates and the families are not together, then this is not going to get done right. And as much as she's having her own hesitation and battles within the system as it is, she's committed to try and make it better. So we have to give her a chance to do that. Sometimes we lose patience, but we still have to have a lot of it as we go forward. So hopefully she will do that. Lots of changes within OPWDD. We've had, we're still waiting to replace Megan O'Connor. Actually, we did replace Megan O'Connor's position. But Leslie Fold is now the Assistant Commissioner for State Operations, overseeing DDROs. So lots of change, but they're trying to line it up and get it done right. So we will continue to remain hopeful and positive and engaged with them. A few more things to let you know. The SIP-PL, or the SIPL, or the Specialized Individual Plans provider-led is again the first step for the CCOs to move towards becoming a managed care organization. Those applications, the comments on the draft application to become one was sent out, and myself, along with other provider associations, parent organizations, and others have submitted some comments. Next year is really going to be the real critical document, which is going to be about policy. And it's going to be about what these MCOs are going to have structurally in order to be able to manage the dollars correctly, manage the services correctly, manage the input and quality correctly. Because again, they have a triple aim here. The triple aim, of course, is to have each individual have a person-centered life and a person-centered planning that makes sense for them, that they're going to have improved outcomes in terms of the whole system for everybody. And I think on the healthcare side of it, that is a good aim to have. And of course, also help manage costs better. Doesn't necessarily mean cut, it means to manage. So that's the triple aim of what we're doing here in this transition. And again, we're going to have to make sure that we are there. Concerned that the ability for parents and self-advocates to have a real input into overseeing quality of services. My certainly concerns, as probably is yours, are people with the most complex needs going to have sufficient resources to be able to be sustained within a managed care environment. Insurance companies are used to seeing, physical therapy, twice a week for 12 weeks, great. We have folks that have physical therapy for life because in order for them to maintain functional capacity, and that will cost less in the long run. So it's hard for many folks, especially in government, to think long term because we're so short-sighted with that. But that's going to be our aim, is to make sure that gets preserved and that gets done. And as that policy document comes out, you guys obviously should be taking a look at it as well. Eligibility. You're aware that they have taken the eligibility guidelines that were available, eligibility for open DV services, and put it in regulation. That was done in response, apparently, to questions raised by Disability Rights New York, according to OPWD. And because there were some families were questioning why was eligibility, being put in regulation now. Did it change? And it really preserves the right for someone who either previously may not have had a level of disability eligible for services, or vice versa, who maybe does not need that level of services, and their eligibility criteria allows periodic review, if as necessary, for that person to remain eligible for services. That has not really changed in terms of practice. It's been in case law, so there is nothing new in terms of OPWD's putting it in regulation. It's really just a more of a pro forma kind of opportunity. So, and I'll leave you with one last positive story. I don't know if you folks saw in the paper, there's an Assemblywoman in Queens named Ari Espinal. She really is filling out the term for someone who's now in the City Council, Francisco Moya. She's kind of in the Corona, Jackson Heights area. So she actually just lost her primary, unfortunately. And I say unfortunately for a reason. When she worked for Assemblyman Moya, she worked in a building in Jackson Heights, and she became friendly with the building manager, who was a woman who every so often would ask her to help fill out forms because her son had a disability. She met the son over time, and he's got IDD, and he is character. Apparently he's such a character, he used to travel with his mom around the building, so he knows every inch of the building. They made him the fire marshal. And he's a very engaging guy, and his mom had asked at that point, the aide of Francisco Moya, she asked him about, can you help fill out some paperwork for Medicare? And she did that not knowing, unfortunately, that mom had cancer, and that mom passed away. So they had lived in, right on the borderline of Brooklyn and Queens, in a section called Ridgewood, because of Ridgewood, Queens, and Ridgewood, Brooklyn. So right there on the border. He had his own apartment, but his name was on the lease. So she started making some inquiries and trying to see how could I help him. And it came to the point where she realized that, unless this person had a legal guardian, he's not going to be able to stay in the apartment. So she became his legal guardian. And she now, has taken on this responsibility, but also this personal connection with this gentleman. The gentleman's 50 years old, she's 30. And she says, it gets a little tough. I said, so, as for many of us who've worked in the field a long time, we have friends from many years ago, and they still call and still touch base with you. And she says, yeah, he calls you about 4 times a day. And I said, no, don't wear that hat. It's dirty. So when they took the picture, there was an article in Gotham City and State, which is more of an internet newspaper, on political news in the city. And there he is sitting with a brand new shirt, and happy because she told him, I'm going to have a picture taken, you got to have a clean outfit. But she was the primary bid, but the point of the story is that someone who had no connection to the disability field, and now understands exactly what it is to help support somebody. She goes, it gets a little tricky if I have to go to session and say, Mom, can you take a look after Clay? And so the mom does, and they have to have him over. And so it was a great story. She was lovely, lovely person. We hate to lose her, but she's one of the Democratic leaders in Queens, so hopefully we'll see her coming around. But she understands the issue. She has friends in the assembly as well, and so we always want to build champions for our services. So keep making those contacts, right? Any questions? Any issues or questions before I go ahead, Paul? You good?
Thank you, Tom.
Okay.
Okay, so we're going to run through committee reports, and then we'll have our presentation. Adult services?
Good morning. As you may have heard, we are doing an event. There are flyers on that table. Excuse my back, or turn to. It's called Post-High School Graduate Opportunities. We did it last year. It was requested that we do it again. We try to do it annually if we can. We invite the provider agencies to come and talk 3 minutes. Talk about their day programs and what they offer. Then they get to have a table, handouts, and talk to one of the families. It is November 13th at 6:30. We're going to sign in at 6:30. That will start at 7. It will run till 8 as far as the presentations. And we have an excellent timekeeper. And then from 8 to 8:30, quarter to 9, we will entertain one-to-one questions, etc. It is going to be held, I think it's called PS6. If anybody knows for sure, please tell me. It's the Jerome Parker campus, and we're being hosted by the school, PS 721. They have an off-site at that campus, and it is on Essex Drive. It's not the school across from the mall, but the one behind that, off Richmond Hill Road. We have sent out to each of the contact people a list of frequently asked questions so they can be prepared to speak to them in a short period of time. We actually had someone create a checklist for us of different types of programs, transportation, accessibility that people might be interested in knowing about your agency, and we're asking the providers to send that back to us with the person who's going to present, with those boxes checked off or not. And we did a cover, and Jackie has really put all this together, thank you. We put a cover letter introduction to them, and those went out on, I believe it was Wednesday. And we're all assigned a few agencies to do follow-ups. We'll keep you posted, but come and join us, and again, flyers are on the back table. I'm sorry. The next meeting is, so it's like a presentation, is October 30th at 10:30 at IBR, and we'll be finalizing everything then. And then we will not have a meeting again until beginning of December. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, the advocacy committee co-chairs couldn't be here today. I have their report. Their committee discussed price options for the community breakfast. Further discussion will ensue. They want to coordinate with local agencies on Staten Island to participate in next year's New York City Disability Card Parade. And they are making a request that agencies try to enhance the dissemination of information to families regarding advocacy efforts such as rallies, lobbying in Albany, outreach to legislators, and the next advocacy committee meeting is scheduled for Monday, November 12th at 9:30 a.m. in the conference room here. Okay. Care management, Janet?
Hello. We had a presentation at the Family Support Fair regarding just like transition to CCO and the future of the service. We have it scheduled for our next meeting. It's been really hectic. It's a lot of training days going on for CCO, so we're hoping for some time at the end of November. But it hasn't been scheduled yet.
Thank you, Janet. Community outreach, Pam?
Good morning. At first, I see a lot of new faces, so I want to welcome everyone if you're new to coming to council. And if you listen to all the co-chairs speaking, if you have questions, please come up and ask us any questions at the end, because we're going to help all of you. So our last committee meeting, we were discussing keeping track of our membership numbers. So if anyone here has not yet signed up to become a member officially, please do so. You can do it on the website, or we have forms in the back. We're going to be reaching out to more vendors, to post more vendors on our website. I know the last meeting we talked about our new website is up and running, so if you haven't checked out the new website, please do so. We keep adding more information, and now we set up a YouTube account, and you can see Lifestyles is in the back videoing, so you can see information from our general council meetings on the website. We are in the process of coming up with guidelines on what we can post on the website, and that'll be helpful for all our members. If you're an agency member or a vendor member, you know exactly what can go on our website and not go on our website. We'll be keeping track of all our website traffic. So far, we're averaging about 480 hits on a monthly basis. We're hoping that that's going to increase now that our website is up and new and improved. And now we're really going to be focusing on our average ideas. So we're always looking for new members. So if anyone wants to join us, we meet typically after the general council meetings. We're right here in the front in the conference room, and all are welcome, and bring your ideas, because everyone has great ideas to share. Thank you.
Thank you. Education?
Hi, we had our meeting on October 16th. We talked about our meeting with Kim Ramones, who is the Special Ed Director of the Borough Field Support Center. Stumbling over that. And we talked to her about, saying we want to talk about, continue our discussion about inclusion, talking about our spring event already, and getting that ball rolling. And one of the things we asked if we could meet and present to the principals, and she's like, well, I can give you parent coordinators, and we said, well, we really want the principals, because as we discussed, the tone starts from the top. So if the principal's on board, that'll trickle down, so that's what we really need, that's our focus. We're going to meet with, we're going to try to meet with Kim again. I was at the Family Fun Day that they had, the DOE had. They gave me part of it, the special ed, group had a table, they gave me part so I could share council information there. That was very crowded for a Saturday, rainy Saturday. So our follow-up meeting with the principals, we are still going to try to meet with the parent coordinators. We also want to start meeting with some of the other, maybe set up joint meetings with the other committees, because this is, the preschool crisis it affects everybody, so we want to try to set that up. Our next meeting will be November 14th at 9:30 at IBR.
Thank you. Family Resource and Transition Fair. I know it was held on October 5th. I don't see the co-chairs here. And I know it was successful. There was over 45 vendors. You had presentations on self-direction and transition. The 3 representatives from the care coordination organizations were on a panel to discuss that. I think there was a presentation on advocacy. Am I missing one?
One happens after eligibility determination.
Okay, great. So look forward to next year's. Family Support Services Advisory Council.
Good morning. Diane Ferrugia and I are the co-chairs. It was on October 10th. We had a presentation and outreach from YAI on their Project Grow program, which is a 6-session training for parents and caregivers of people with intellectual and developmental disabilities. New session is going to be starting soon, and they're looking for anyone who's interested. You can contact Elizabeth Asen, elizabeth.asen@yai.org. Her telephone is 212-273-6259. And there's flyers in the back.
And I'm here also.
And she's here. And she's here. In person, I didn't see you, sorry. Kathy Nowak is our statewide rep, and she gave a report on the Family Support Services Commissioner's Quarterly Report on several topics, which included CCOs, Family Support and Services Housing updates, updates on self-direction, and the CAS, or the Coordinated Assessment System. She also provided us with handouts on these subjects. We always have representation from OPWGD, Chris Grover and John Wynn come to our meetings. We alternate our meetings between morning and evening. Our next meeting will be in the evening on Tuesday, November 15th at 7 p.m. at 2535 Arthur Hill Road. We serve wine and cheese in the evening, and we have a light breakfast in the morning. Thank you.
Thank you. Health and Clinical, Jane?
Hi, everyone. So, sorry, my voice is shot. I'm quite dead. We met this past Wednesday, we discussed plans to go forward with our questionnaire, and it should be sent to parent members of the council via survey monkey very soon, so we'll be seeing that. Once we get responses, we'll decide on our next steps for that questionnaire. For the purpose of the questionnaire is to gather information regarding positive experiences families have had with healthcare providers. Okay? We also discussed the continuing need for education and sensitivity of hospitals. And I think I wrote the date wrong when I sent you this, because our next meeting is going to be the second Wednesday in November instead of the third, because the third Wednesday is the day before Thanksgiving, and 90% of our community are females who cook, so. So just make note, it's the second Wednesday.
Thank you, Jane. Residential quality of life, Jason sent me a report, but you're going to present?
Yep,
Great.
I wrote the report.
Okay, residential quality of life met on September 28th. We had about a dozen people there, including one new couple whose son has just moved into a residence. The main topic was discussion about presentations for the year, and we came up with 19 suggestions, so we'll have lots of choices. Talked about vacant beds and backfills, what kind of people are waiting for beds, the limitations on the agencies about how to choose people, the fact that OPW is willing to decertify beds rather than do an increase in capacity, defying our understanding of backfills as we looked on them for 20 years in proposal review. So that's the issue. CCO didn't have any complaints from the people in that group, seems to be moving along. The issues for agencies have to do with FMLA, people leaving in family leave, how that depletes the workforce in an agency when too many people are out at one time, and the DSP minimum wage going up on December 31st, whether or not there will be extra money, and as Tom pointed out, that's an issue about the budgets, as if we didn't have enough issues. And it's not we don't want to pay people, it's that how do we pay people equitably. There's some confusion about the CAS assessments. At least one agency has been told to stop doing them, and other agencies, as we found out on executive board last week, have been told that, so I don't know what's going on with CAS, but more confusion. And other stuff, I mean, each group that can talk. The next meeting is next Friday morning in the conference room over here at 9:30 in the morning. So we'll see you then. All right? Thank you.
Thank you.
Self-directed supports, Jason.
Hi, good morning, everyone. I'm happy to announce that we have a new co-chair identified. Her name is Melissa Palermo, and she will be starting, and she will be a great addition to the self-direction committee. We will be having our next meeting at the end of November, November 29th, here at 9:30. Thank you.
Yes, there were some
members added as a result of the resource fair. 8, I think was the number I heard. So we're coming along, keeping track of that. There is an effort being made with Angela in the office, the idea from the outreach committee, to track the membership, which we've never done before, to see when people become members. That will help us identify some issues. And remember that the membership application for most people went out on the internet from Angela, so you didn't get an envelope and paper, you have to sign up, print out the application and bring it in. And what's the update?
I'm sorry, I didn't know you do it on the website.
On the website.
Join on the
And
website.
was the payment mechanism
Yes,
cleaned up?
yes, it is.
Because 2 weeks ago, it was available, but now it is, so you can pay through the internet if you're so minded.
Thank you. Okay, Wolverine Property Planning Committee, the co-chairs weren't able to be here today, but they did send a report. Their committee met on September 26th with representatives from the College Staten Island Steering Committee for the Willowbrook Mile. The initial budget for the mile's implementation was discussed. Decisions were made regarding the style of the station signage, and the final proposal is being completed by the college's facilities department, which includes purchase of signage, seating, and landscaping for the mile, as well as installation by the college facility staff. The committee will continue to participate in the editorial and written messaging on the stations. CTV has been contacted to try to finalize the Willowbrook Revisited series for the show introducing the mile. A discussion has been started to support Willowbrook Survivors Remembrance Day to coincide with the annual Rivera Willowbrook presentation at the college in the spring. The next collaborative steering committee meeting has been scheduled for November 9th at 9:30 a.m. at the College of Staten Island. Okay. Treasurer's report, Lisa Sarate informed me that we have $13,120.52 in the treasury, and we're going to go into our presentations. Unfortunately, I don't have your name, so I'm going to just ask you to come up here and introduce yourself because I have Francisco's name here. I apologize. But you are from, is it CDN1?
New York Connect.
New York Connect.
Yes.
Okay. From New York Connect, and we're going to have a presentation on access, accessibility, disability services. Oh, we have some good details. What's your name? Humera? Okay. Humera, okay, we're going to have a presentation from Humera, and I'll get something.
Hand it out.
Yeah, I'm going to hand some stuff. Grab some. Thank you so much.
So hi everyone, my name is Humera. I'm one of the borough managers for the New York Connect program. I'm just gonna say really quickly, this morning I took a medicine that makes me a little drowsy, so if you don't mind, I'm just gonna have a seat. Yeah, I'm sure you don't want to see me like fall over. So, good morning everyone. Like I said, my name is Humera Salam. I'm from the New York Connect program. Many of you may have heard of the New York Connect program before, especially if you're a provider. So, and especially if you see the brochure, the folded one going around, I'm sure you have seen that before. So I just want to mention that the New York Connect program, I see the team here, Albana, many of you may know her and her team. They serve the senior population, but recently in July, we just opened an office here in Staten Island. The program in itself, New York Connects, branched, and now a younger population is being served as well. So in addition to Albana and her team who serve seniors, the New York Connects program now serves individuals with disabilities. So they're one of our partners, and they're really experts in their field, but we're glad to say that now younger people with disabilities, any type of disabilities, can also get similar services. So what do I mean
reports. So we are set up in a way that you can call our 1844 number that is in the brochure, and you can be connected to a benefits counselor. In all 5 boroughs, we can work with you over the phone. We can also work with you in person. But basically, we're a hotline to connect you to your long-term support services. Things like benefits, so Social Security, housing information, supported employment information, and then also we get calls about anything and everything. We get calls about immigration. Where can we go to get a GED? Where can my family member go to get an application for senior housing? I'm not sure if one of my family members has a disability. How do I get an assessment? So we get a variety of calls. One of the things that we do get calls about, especially since last July when the whole transition happens between MSCs and care coordinators, we got a lot of calls about that. And then now we're seeing a trend about people calling us about the new front door process as well. So if you have questions about that, you're more than welcome to call. Our counselor, Francisco, unfortunately, he couldn't be here today. He's located at 56 Bay Street on the 4th floor, and then our partners are on the 5th floor. So if you ever need services for your family members, individuals with disabilities, come to us on the 4th floor, and then on the 5th floor, go 1 floor up, and you can be seen by Alvana and her team. But as I was saying, Francisco, he's really an expert. He comes from a background of Social Security. He is like our go-to person for Social Security. So if you have questions about perhaps you're on a benefit like SSI, and you're going back to work, or you're now getting supported employment, and you're a little concerned about how your benefits may be affected due to income, Francisco can talk to you about work incentives and what can happen potentially, what formulas are used by the Social Security Administration to deduct benefits if that's going to happen to you at all. Francisco also speaks Spanish very well. I don't. I speak Urdu and Hindi, so if there's ever a need for that, our counselors also have access to a language line, so if there is a situation where English is not your first language, please don't hesitate to call. We will support you in either way. We get calls about, hey, where's my local day have program? Where can I go for supported employment? So anything that's relevant to you, please do give us a call. We serve people with any type of disability, so it could be anything from a chronic health issue like diabetes, asthma, cancer, any type of disability. We also do 2010E applications, so that's the supportive housing applications. If you're ever interested in those, feel free to give us a call. And if you're not concerned about benefits in general and you're just looking for resources in the community, we'd love to connect you to that as well. So, just in short, we have walk-in hours at 56 Bay Street, Monday through Friday, from 9:30 to 3:30. We do have one counselor, so it is always best to make an appointment if you would like to be seen by Francisco or myself. But the best way to contact us would be on the 1844 number on our brochure. And I can also stick around to answer any questions if you want to make an appointment. If you want Francisco's direct number, I'm happy to give that to you guys as well. Really short, informal presentation for you guys this morning, but any questions, I'll be here afterwards, or if we have time, I'm happy to answer questions right now.
Would you be willing to come to meeting?
Absolutely, yes.
And the Social Security benefits is a real hot item.
Absolutely. Yeah, we'd love to. We just opened our office at 56 Bay Street in July, so we're really looking to get into the community. If you're a provider, please see me. We'd love to be there for you guys.
And would you be the person to contact for Francisco?
still would be doing the direct services. I would be there to support him since he's just one person. Yeah.
Could you give us a contact number for?
I have Francisco's contact, I'll give it to Angela, she can generate it to the membership. They came out, and Francisco Romero came out, I think it was last month, to our organization. They do a nice PowerPoint presentation. Unfortunately, we didn't have the equipment today to do the PowerPoint, so she's telling us as much as she can, she's doing a great job. I was very impressed that they knew a lot of the stuff that we do. And they know almost every realm of the city services. Like you say something and they knew it. And I was very, very impressed because I was like, how do they know all this? So it was a very, very good presentation and today as well. So I'm sure people will walk away with some questions, but I will absolutely share the contact information, Francisco's email, and he also gave us his cell phone number, so I'll share that with you guys.
Email, phone number, what have you. Snail mail, I don't know.
Somebody else have a question?
I saw a hand go
You
up.
did, so your hand. No?
Oh, there's a question in the back.
Yes.
Would you also be able to provide sign language service?
Yes, absolutely. We have staff. We also have a VP. So if you need access to that, one of our managers is also fluent in ASL. We can have it come down as well if that's a need. Do let us know.
Very good.
Yeah.
Thank you very much.
Great. Thank you.
So now we're having a presentation from Olympic Fit, Frank Mensa. Is he here? Oh. Well, that's disappointing. Does anybody have any new business? Iris, and then Linda.
Okay. So I am with an organization, Special Education Parent Center for Staten Island and Parents Parent New York, Inc. There are flyers on the back table. We are doing a number of presentations over the next couple of months. And we all our calendar is there. What we do on a monthly basis. We do a number of support groups. We do information workshops. We help with the educational process. We go to schools to speak on any topic that you may request. So the last Sunday of October, October 28th, we are doing a college information session in conjunction with CSI. Information session and a tour of the college. We do it on a Sunday because certainly parking is easier. Campus, for the most part, is not as crowded, and we can go get a tour. We will have speakers from each department that can and will provide services for anybody who might need some additional help in attending CSI or, for the most part, any other city college. It starts at 10 o'clock. Registration is required. There's also something that we talk about with meetings for IEPs and school meetings, which is called Parent Member. We do parent member trainings, but in all honesty, if you're not interested in being a parent member and assisting parents during their meetings, it is also an excellent place. We didn't hear this from anybody. It is an excellent place to learn about the process of the IEP, the process of special education, and we will have someone there from DOE who does the presentation. Again, all of this is on the back table. There are programs in the school system which are specialized to children, for the most part, on the spectrum, both higher functioning and those needing some extra help. It is called the ASD Nest and Horizon programs. We will have the head of that program presenting for us on November 15th at IBR. And she is the guru on those programs. There is usually a waiting list to get in, and there are screenings for it, so please come and learn about that. And of course, last but not least, is our adult services presentation on November 13th. So, and I'm here for any questions. Thank you.
Thank you. Anybody else in business? Linda, I'm sorry, Linda had a hand up first, then we'll work our way this way.
This is an announcement about an event at the college for people interested in education, training, teacher training. The Disability Studies Minor Advisory Committee is sponsoring this on November 7th, Wednesday, November 7th, 4:40 in the Park Cafe. Flyers in the back. The two faculty from Hunter College and City College are going to come speak on inclusion in schools and society, a disability studies perspective. Disability studies is making its way into academia as a discipline which is more holistic, more whole body, more whole lifespan, about people with all kinds of disabilities. This is very different from what the schools thought about when my son was in school. So it's about what goes on with teachers and how they deal with our kids. So the big part of the topic is how can it shape teaching practices to allow student success, because we know that a lot of student success is dependent on teacher attitudes. So this is attitude and sensitivity training. And how does it connect to larger issues of equity for all citizens? So this is a broad-based perspective. If you're working in the schools, if you deal with teachers, if you have children who are growing up, then you might be interested in this. So that's Wednesday, November 7th at 4:40 in the Park Cafe. And Angela will send out a notice.
Pam? Okay, I'm sorry.
Adaptive Community Network, we have openings on Saturday. Saturday's their program from 10 a.m. to 3 p.m. Ages between 13 and 29, there are openings, and it's a recreation program. I've been running it for about 17 years, and it's a very fun program for all the kids with disabilities. We do cooking, arts and crafts, we run trips in this bucket.
That's great. And you are?
My name is Diane Correa.
Nice to
And
meet
I've
you.
been working in the Saturday program for about 17 years, so I've seen it change. Different programs. We had one time we had Home Depot come in and do like some arts and crafts stuff and woodwork and clown come in. Usually I try to make phone calls to get some more fun stuff to come. We're trying to get more people to
Sure.
more so a lot of audience.
Great.
Flyers in the back.
Flyers in the back. Where is the program?
I'm sorry, it's a Port Richmond, 281 Port Richmond. And there's openings and there's busing also.
Okay, great. Melissa.
Good morning. Cerebral Palsy Association of New York State is having an open house next Wednesday from 4 to 7 at the Cora Hopkins Center. So there's flyers in the back. We have a lot of new and exciting programs starting at our day half. So please, if you're interested, please come and check us out next Wednesday. And also, Cerebral Palsy Association of New York State has openings at our after-school program. It's located at Hungerford, and it's It's Monday through Thursdays, 3 to 5, and each day it's the students who are participating in it love it because it's making healthy snacks, it's recreational activities, arts and crafts on a daily basis. So if you're interested, flyers for both are in the back.
Is there transportation from home on the after-school program?
From home, yes. If they attend a Hungerford school, if not, then the transportation is worked out through the DOE, so the transportation will be to the site, and then a parent or someone would have to pick them up there.
In the back, and then.
My name is Contessa Officer. I bring you greetings from Tri-County Care. We are one of the CCOs. I was actually on the panel for Staten Island Fair. I just wanted to let you know that we do represent upstate New York, the boroughs, and Long Island. I have some flyers in the back. If you have any questions about Tri-County Care as a CCO or just some questions in general, I'd be happy to answer them for you. If I do not know the answer, I will get back to you. And that's pretty much it.
Okay, great.
We have an open enrollment for transition it's called Transition Opportunities Program Top. It's a paid internship for students with an IEP from ages 14 to 21. We have flyers in the back and brochures for more information. And I'm here to answer any questions, and hopefully we can send a full presentation on this program to you in the near future so you can learn more about it.
Yes, thank you. Anyone else, new business, old business? Okay, we are having a recap meeting Wednesday, October 24th, here at 7 p.m. The presenter, I know you'll be here. I'm not sure what happened with Frank.
He may be lost.
He might be. But we'll find out what happened. But the presentations, we'll have a recap of the presentations. Committee co-chairs, some of you gave me reports. If you're not going to attend the meeting, please send me your report so I can present. If I don't get your report, you can't present. If there is no other new business or old business, I'm going to adjourn the meeting.